Godless, casual gaming. Godless, casual gaming. Godless, casual gaming. Godless, casual gaming.
Hello, you are listening to Thoughtless Casual Gaming with Brett and Jace. We are a world-renowned podcast where we are known for playing things badly. Is that renowned in a good way? I'm just going to say we are.
Are we renowned? Is that a thing?
If I say it and you put this on the internet, that makes it official.
I mean, the internet is by definition international.
Exactly.
So I suppose, how could we not be?
That's it. Welcome back, sports fans. This is episode 4 of the Blood Bowl breakdown. And in this episode, we are going to cover the second team that was introduced in Season 2 of Blood Bowl 2020. Can we call it Blood Bowl 2020 if it's Season 2 and that wasn't released in 2020?
I mean, we can call it whatever the hell we want. We could just call it Blood Bowl Nigel edition, but...
Okay, so introduced into the Nigel edition, alongside the Imperial Nobility that we talked about last episode, were the Black Orc team. Now, I don't think these are as cool with a bit of a mob story like the Nobility are, but do you want to give us a bit of the background?
Look, it's a slightly more orky version of all of these things.
Wow.
So, Black Orcs are the biggest and strongest of all orcs. Many believe they draw their name from the dark green skin, although the title is more likely derived from their dour demeanour and bleak sense of humour. Grim and singularly focused on violence, it's no wonder that so many flock to the Blood Bowl pitch. Black Orcs treat other greenskins as little more than frivolous amateurs, largely because lesser orcs are likely to squabble amongst themselves and to focus too much on beating up the opposition, instead of concentrating on the game. Consequently, many Black Orcs refuse to play alongside other Orcs, choosing instead to form their own teams. Yet, Black Orcs aren't stupid. They know the importance of speed and agility. As a result, Black Orc teams make great use of Goblins, many of whom they become quite fond of, treating them as their favourite pets and training them to be tough with regular clubs about the noggin. So, what I'm hearing is this is an Orc team where these guys were playing some Blood Bowl with some Orcs and went, screw you guys, I'm going to get my own Blood Bowl team with blackjack and hookers. In fact, screw the Blood Bowl.
And the blackjack. Orcs, the Black Orcs, they don't have as many options as any of the other teams that we've already done, and realistically probably the lowest amount of options. Of those, there are 3. So you can have 0 to 12 Goblin Bruiser linemen who cost 45,000 each, movement 6, strength 2, agility 3+, passing 4+, armor value 8+, with dodge, right stuff, stunty, and thick skull. You can have 0 to 6 Black Orcs, 90,000 each, movement 4, strength 4, agility 4+, passing 5+, armor value 10+, with Brawler and Grab. You can also have 0 to 1 Trained Trolls, 115,000, movement 4, strength 5, agility 5+, passing 5+, armor value 10+, always hungry, loner 3+, mighty blow +1, projectile vomit, really stupid, regeneration, throw teammate. They also have access to $60,000 coin rerolls, tier 2, and can get an apothecary for their team. So, nice and simple. 3 choices here if you want to play Black Orcs.
Which is fundamentally an attractive thing for some. Let's be honest.
It's a very orky thing, isn't it?
And look, I really like the singular nature that they've just gone, right, here is a team. Let's not mess around with 1,000 different choices. We know what Black Orcs want to do. Let's just let them do it.
That's it. So let's go into each of those a little bit more. So the Goblins, they're your stunties. Like, so the typical stunties, they cost 5k extra than a normal goblin, but for that 5k, they're getting thick skull, which means they're slightly harder to knock out, which is always good when you've got like armor value 8. It's your stunties are going to get hit. They're your agility 3+, so in a lot of instances, they're going to be your ball carriers here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but not only agility 3+, but with dodge and stunty, they get around. Like, all of a sudden, being able to bounce anywhere on a 3+, regardless of tackle zones, it's juicy with a reroll baked in, so you can kind of work out where you want to get to and how hard you want to make it for yourself. They are super useful as ball carriers. They are super useful just to get around and do what you need to do and get out of those really awkward positions that you will invariably find yourself in. And yeah, as a 5k for thick skull, I can probably wear that. That's
Look, when they're costing 45,000, that's not much as far as alignment goes.
no, I mean, we compare that to the last episode where we talked Imperial Nobility.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am deciding the order in which I will put these out on the fly. I mean, it's the same cost for alignment. But for that, yes, you lose a point of strength, but you get dodge and stunty on a 3+ edge piece. It's a fundamentally different role, but it is at least as valuable, particularly when there's no other positions to fill that.
That's right. And being that they're goblins, they've got right stuff, which means they are throwable, which brings a whole nother possible tactic to your game plan. There is a lot to be said about a well-timed thrown goblin, whether he's got the ball or not. Like, a thrown goblin with the ball can run in for a touchdown as long as he lands it. A goblin without the ball can also be thrown at your opponents.
That is an underused tactic.
Mm-hmm. You come up against your opponent with a cage and the ball in the middle of the cage. Plenty of targets there. The Black Orcs. 90k, you can have 6 of them. There's 6 strength 4 pieces.
That is a glorious amount of strength 4. That is more than half your field.
Yep.
In a full 11s game at strength 4, which is a terrifying prospect for many opposition players.
Yes. They are movement 4, which is a negative.
And look, let's not pretend that isn't a negative. That is a significant negative. Movement 4 is not many squares. And go for it. So rushes, as they are now referred to, are not the most reliable of things.
No. Look, movement 4 is dwarf movement.
Look, it's not my preferred movement. Let's be honest. And the other thing I think really, while we're on that movement piece, is because, again, we've got that disparity between a movement 4 hitty defensive kind of punchy piece and movement 6 of what will likely be your ball carriers. It is also easy to get pulled out of position or maybe overextend the goblins and not have anyone to come and save them. Yes. So I always find in those teams where there's a real mix of movements, sometimes they get a little bit harder to play because it's easier to leave some of the higher movement pieces just out of reach of their friends.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's happened to all of us on occasion. But what they lack in movement, they make up for in their skills. Grab is a fantastic skill when you're punching somebody, and most of the time you're punching them with 2 dice. Because you are the person that gets to choose where you're putting them, and you're putting them in any square you want.
I really like grab. It's great. I actually really like that it's a starting skill on these guys because it is not a skill that you would normally choose as an early one. You know, most of the time with your hitty pieces, you're going for your blocked, you're going for your guard, you're going for those kind of vanilla-y starting base skills that you want just to make pieces reliable. And grab isn't a reliability piece; it's a utility piece. And having some utility from the start is glorious.
Yes. Grab is one of those ones which is just slightly underrated, I think. It's a skill that can really affect the game. You have that option of basically anyone that you're punching down or pushing. You get to choose where they're going. You're choosing the layout of the field after a couple of blocks, and that can really open up some options for you.
Yeah.
The
Not
other
only
skill,
that,
yeah,
is it counteracts sidestep. And if there's one thing that pisses me off, it's a fend sidestep ball carrying piece. Which, look, to be honest, is my favorite combination of ball carrying skills. Dodge, fend, sidestep is the best thing in the world. But being able to just remove that is kind of glorious.
it's the sort of piece that you love when you're playing and hate when you're playing against.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Addition to grab, you've got brawler. Now, brawler's one of those skills that has its uses, definitely. Brawler basically allows you to re-roll one both down option. So if you've tried to hit somebody and you've gotten at least one both down, you can re-roll one of those dice. Now, talking sevens, that's great because you're not normally going to have many re-rolls, if any at all.
Mm-hmm.
So having that option of sort of a re-roll, it's kind of half a re-roll, isn't it?
Yeah.
It gives you a bit more of an option. With 11s, it becomes a little bit trickier because the ruling is if you use brawler, you can't re-roll that one. They updated those, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it
So
falls under that no re-rolling re-rolls piece. And effectively, you're using a re-roll, but you're only getting one of the dice.
yes,
Which, so, I mean, yes. And look, the argument is that Brawler is not block, where you just effectively ignore the both down result. It's good for you. If you're hitting something that doesn't have block, it's even better because they still go down. So you don't have that automatic piece. It relies on another dice roll, but it's a little more high risk, high reward. Let's say we're hitting a piece here and we get 2 dice block, we do a push both down. The push isn't bad. It's not what I want, but it's not bad. The both down, not great. But this is basically a free chance to turn that into a POW.
mm-hmm.
So you have that. I mean, even in the situation you go for double both down, great. It also means that if you're hitting block pieces, that if you had block and they had block, you hit the both down, just nothing happens. You have an option again to turn one of those into a POW. The downside is you can also turn it into a skull.
Yeah. So if you're rolling 2 dice and getting a skull and a both down, that both down could easily turn into another skull, and then you've double skulled yourself. It can happen, and it will happen on occasion.
Yeah. As it stands, you were going down anyway, so I feel like the roll is free. And having starting skills on a strength 4 piece is glorious.
Yes, very much so. Look, overall, I will take the Black Orcs over the big uns on the normal Orc team.
Yeah. So you gain the skills, you lose a point of movement if we do a comparison for, I think they're the same cost.
Yes, they are.
I
But
like
you
the
also
move
don't get
5.
you also don't get the animosity that comes with the big uns.
Oh yeah, that whole thing is a whole world of ridiculous. But anyway, look, what it does is it actually gives the Black Orc more flavor, and it makes them the simple, reliable, clear team. And I think it also gives the Orc team a little bit more flavor in that they are that kind of mildly chaotic team that you kind of expect. But fundamentally, Brawler, not a bad option, especially in a strength 4 piece as a freebie starting skill. Yes. And grab as a utility piece for a starting skill is great because it means when you start adding in those skills that will give you more reliability, you already have this utility piece. You don't need to pay for it. And you can choose to use it. You could just put them wherever they would like to go, but you can just start dictating where the field is. And even on a push, you put the tackle zones where you want them.
Yes, agreed.
And the models are really cool.
The models are fantastic, and like for them to come in your starting box is just awesome.
They
like the amount of
themselves.
stuff in that starting season 2 box was incredible. You got 2 teams, you got 2 star players, 2 big guys,
coaches or the refs. Sorry,
yeah, whatever you use them for. But yeah, no, fantastic models. The troll, I mean, it's your regular sort of troll, but with a couple of small differences. So loner is 3+. It's not your usual 4+. They're slightly better at using rerolls if they choose to use rerolls. Projectile vomit. It's just a funny skill.
Well, it is. But I feel like it falls into, I mean, firstly, killing anything by vomiting on them is the best thing in the world. It's glorious, but it kind of falls into the realm of stab, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it really comes down to who you target with them.
Yes.
Because if I'm blocking something, I want a few possible outcomes. I definitely want them off the pitch. Step one. That's the ultimate goal. But I have to assume that if I'm blocking something, I'm probably going to get a push result, and that I'm moving them to where I want. So what we're doing is we're removing the risk of sculling ourselves or both downing ourselves or anything like that. And we're taking an attempt at cracking armor, which is good as long as the armor isn't too high. Because if the armor's high, realistically, what I want to do or what I want to bank on happening is moving that player. So if you can park one of these guys next to a ball carrier, if you can get him in a place where he's marking a couple of maybe smaller, whether it's stunty pieces, whether it's lower armor, kind of catches and things like that, all of a sudden the vomit becomes a real valuable option. Sure, you might be 2 dice or even 3 dicing something, but we've all rolled trip skulls. And realistically, what I want him to do is to mark those players. So let's just freebie with a vomit. I mean, it's practically free. Sure, there's a chance you can, puke it on yourself. And we've all been there, so that makes sense. But I feel like just a free chance to remove a player or crack armor on a player is not a bad thing, with a lot less risk than throwing block dice.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be other scenarios too. Like, if you're standing next to an ogre, for instance, like that's a 1 dice block without assists. There's a possibility that it can go off, but you've got a 2 in 6 chance that you're going down yourself.
And even those situations where you might have to block uphill, either there's a shit ton of assists, you've managed to get him into, some kind of situation where there's a lot of cage, you're almost in a cage or something like that, and they've just piled in assists to make it hard to hit, or you're hitting another big guy and they've got an assist, or something's happened there. It's a nice little get out of jail free. You've got a chance to take a player off the pitch with a very slim chance that anything bad is going to happen at all, comparatively.
And let's face it, this is Blood Bowl, so when things go wrong, it's almost funnier. And to have your troll vomit on itself in a pivotal moment in a match is not necessarily a bad thing. It's one of those things you'll remember anyway.
Can a troll regen his own vomit?
Yeah, why not?
I like it.
Yeah.
This amuses me even more because I'm not sure how this plays out in real life, but anyway.
So I mean, cons for this team, you've got 3 options. It's kind of also a pro in some cases because, like, having too many options is also an issue. You might have too many positions that you want to take. You might be stuck for working out the best way of playing a team. I mean, this team is pretty straightforward. You've got your faster ball carriers, which generally will either run and dodge in their way into a touchdown, or they'll get thrown by a troll. You've got your bashy guys, which are going to stand there, 2 dice most things, and with armor 10, they're going to take a hell of a punch to get down anyway. And you've got a vomiting troll. Like,
Yeah. And look, not only is it limited number of choices for selection, but because they have such distinct roles on the pitch, and there's really no swapping between them. We're very rarely going to get a black orc ball carrier,
no.
and we're not really going to get a punchy goblin. So it's really clearly defined who does what, which again is actually not necessarily a bad thing. I suppose where that can become challenging is it's also very clear for your opponent who does what.
Yes. But that being said, I mean, you want to punch down your opponent's ball carriers when they've got dodge and they're stunting and dodging away from your guys fairly easily. That's not always as easy as you want it to be. You got a 1 in 6, or if you've got block, 2 in 6 chance of getting them down in the first place.
And look, realistically, the good thing about these guys having specific roles is they're very good at them.
Yes.
So, it's not all doom and gloom in that regards, but it is probably one of those pieces where there is a chance your opponent will come in with a very clear game plan on how to tackle your team. We talked a little bit again last episode about knowing your opponent's team and playing to their weaknesses rather than your strengths. I feel like this is one of those teams that you can go in and go, right, well, I'm playing against Black Orcs. I know exactly what everything's going to do, so I know how I want to start to counter it, and then watch the game screw that plan royally. But you start off with a
Because it's
plan.
Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl always does that. So, I mean, you've got options. You've got your fast runners. You've got throw teammate. You've got punching guys. You've got potentially 7 players with strength 4 or more. That's a hell of a lot of block dice going against your opponent. So, if they have not got the best of armor values, you should be players up by
Pretty
second
quickly.
half. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got the option of caging up slowly and running some late touchdowns in, but again, your goblins should be able to break through and score on numerous occasions. For your Black Orcs, if you're skilling them up, you probably want to look at guard, block, stand firm, things along those sort of lines. Basically anything to help them punch your opponent.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So block is an interesting one given that they show up with Brawler, which is kind of almost a pseudo block.
Yes.
But I think the thing that block gives them that Brawler does not is defensive ability as well. So, the fact that it works on a block that you're receiving, not just the blocks that you're giving, is a very juicy thing. I thinking out loud, I'm not sure that block would be my first go-to because I have Brawler. I think what it encourages you to do is start to look outside the vanilla options and see what else you can do. I definitely want guard. Stand firm is glorious, but what else can we take knowing that we've got some extra reliability? It's not block levels of reliability, but there's some.
Mighty Blow.
Yeah, and they get general and strength, so
Yes.
Yeah, Mighty Blow, I mean, effectively that should mean that they're just racking up star player points faster. Which is always a good thing. There is a question there around whether you, even if in a world where you don't have starting skills, whether you would take block or Mighty Blow first as a progression piece. Yeah,
there are options. Yeah, having general as well, because a lot of what you'll find is a lot of strength 4 pieces really have access to strength as their primary skills. So having that general as well gives you more options, gives you other ways that you can take these guys. But yeah, look here. I think overall, especially for only having the 3 options, they're a pretty solid team. Tier 2 is definitely where they belong. Yeah, they're not going
absolutely.
to, a Skaven team, for example, should run around them. You should be able to do a fair bit of damage to a Skaven team, but tier 2 is pretty much right smack bang in the middle where they should be.
Yeah, and I feel like that is fundamentally because you've got 2 very distinct, or 3, but 2 very distinct player types on the team. There's the hitty ones, the slow hitty ones, and the faster runny ones, which gives your opponent a real good indication at the start. And it also means that if you don't have any one of those player types over the course of the game for whatever reason, your game plan goes south real quick.
Yes. Anything else you want to say on the team before I go into a couple of lineup options?
No, I think, look, the only thing we haven't really spoken about, but it will probably fall out in lineup, is probably a little bit more on the troll and the throwing options.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that piece. So, a throw teammate option on a team gives you a potential 1-turn touchdown.
Yes.
So, I suppose the piece here is that even if that isn't your initial game plan, even if that's not what you're aiming for, what it does is give you some redundancy to catch up. Let's say you're a couple of touchdowns or you're a touchdown behind in the scorecard without a lot of turns. You've still got a play that you can make where you can Hail Mary it. So I think that's probably the piece that's actually, rather than the strength 5 is good. It's always strength 5 with a neg trait. So, there's a trade-off there. But what it does is give you a second option to score that isn't just running down the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
As well as the, earlier mentioned defensive options. I want to break a cage and I can't reach it with my Black Orcs because they're only movement 4. Or they're all tied up and I can't dodge away because that is not what Black Orcs do. It just gives you, an extra kind of utility, redundancy piece to go, I have another option, and I'm just going to throw a goblin at him.
Absolutely.
And they got thick skull. What could go wrong?
So, I mean, every now and then, sure enough, yes, you're going to eat one of your goblins. So be it.
They're delicious.
But, yeah, look, who could blame you? But yeah, like the amount of times that it will happen throughout the course of a league or whatever, where your opponent, you kick to your opponent in whatever half it is, they score slowly and score in their final turn, and then you've got 1 turn. Like that throw teammate, every now and then it's going to pay off.
Yeah, it gives you a play in that instance where you don't have one before. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and those goblins with dodge and study, like they can get through that lineup that your opponent is invariably going to do at the
As long as they
back
stick
line.
the landing,
Yeah,
they're happy days.
Yeah, that's it. So 7s, you can pretty much do this however you like. You want a few of the big guys for sure. So you can afford a troll, 3 Black Orcs, and 4 Goblins. So that's 8 players. Or, if you want to skip the troll, you just substitute another Black Orc in for that. So easy done. Plus, again, Brawler on 7s is kind of a free reroll that you didn't have.
Grab on a smaller pitch too. Not
Yes.
terrible.
They're a solid 7s team, I think. 11s, it comes down to troll or not to troll. You can go 5 Black Orcs, troll, 5 Goblins, 2 rerolls in the million. That's easy enough. Otherwise, if you want to forego the troll, you've got 6 Black Orcs, 6 Goblins, and 3 rerolls. That's 990. So
Yeah.
you can chuck the other 10 in another dedicated fans if you'd like. There's
And
definitely options for
yeah,
your 3 options.
it is. If I go into my standard approach to a Blood Bowl team, which is basically rerolls first, I mean, with a big guy decision, it's probably a little bit different. Do I want to take the big guy or not? Is decision number one. But fundamentally, Edge 3 team or Edge 3 ball carriers, no specific ball carrying skills. I probably want 3 rerolls off the bat, and then it's fill from there. So it comes down to the slight unreliability but extra utility and redundancy of the troll versus just playing a straight up reliable game of strength 4 Black Orcs that do exactly what Black Orcs do.
I mean, you've got the option. Like, if you took the 6 Black Orcs option, chucked the extra 10K into an extra dedicated fans, then that'll start paying you back relatively quickly. You'll get back that 10K pretty quickly. And realistically, it comes down to which way you want to start, because a troll's 115K, extra reroll halfway through the league or whenever you get the money is going to be 120K. Pretty much of a muchness.
Yeah, it's not far off. I mean, the troll being the cheaper of the big guys is a really juicy piece. And realistically, the really stupid as opposed to bonehead, look, it takes a little bit more management, but when you've got a team full of goblins, it's actually not a huge amount of management to make that to at least maximize your chances of the neg trait not screwing you. It will still do exactly what that does at the most in opportune moments, but
yeah, I mean, if you are using that troll to throw, you've already got somebody standing next to them, so it's pretty much exactly the same as a bonehead. It's a 2+.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add?
Now, look, as I said, the big decisions are really troll, not to troll. If you're building this team, I think the Brawler is a really handy little skill that is basically free, and grab is ridiculously underrated, especially as a starting skill. There's a couple of teams that we'll sort of get to as we go along that probably play similarly to the Black Orcs, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It means that at least there's a kind of style that you'll start to see creeping up. But the thing that you've got with the Black Orcs that you don't have with them is the option to throw teammates. And again, as a utility piece, that just, I don't think it can be. There'll be the moment, right, in a game, if you are playing with Black Orcs and the throw teammate option, there will be a moment where you are potentially playing defensively. You are trying to stop. They get a breakaway play, and you're like, "Shit! None of my Black Orcs can reach it. I can't get to this ball carrier. I could do it with a Goblin, but I'm blocking uphill, or something like this. It's not reliable." And you have that light bulb moment go off when you wait. I have another option. And that's kind of the fun piece for this. It's just that those kind of corner case, and not even particularly corner case when you have movement for Black Orcs, where you're just like, I can't do this using all of the standard things I would do, but I'm just going to reach into this little bag of tricks and pull out something special.
Even if you've got a Goblin that can reach a ball carrier, you could chuck another Goblin in. If you don't hit that ball carrier, then that Goblin can land and add the assist, get the uphill block to a 1-die.
Yep.
Yeah, there's options, definitely. I like them. I rate them.
Look, honestly, I really, and I also really enjoy how different they are to the other orc team out there. And I think the changes that they've made when they've introduced the Black Orcs that I really wasn't paying attention to because orcs aren't my particular flavor most of the time. I really like how the two teams are fundamentally like the flavor is different.
Yes.
Do I want chaotic, crazy, wild, or do I want just angry ass Black Orcs doing what they do, pushing some goblins around?
Yeah. I mean, that comes down to personal preference, but they're an
more
intriguing
reliable.
team. Yes.
They're more reliable than the Orc team. They still give you all the joy of playing Orcs and Goblins. I think they're a good starting team for someone who wanted to pick the game up because there isn't a billion options and a 1,000 skills that you need to remember. And everything has its job. So as long as you can work out how they do those jobs, it's actually a good team to pick up and pilot off the bat as well. There's not a huge learning curve, but there's still enough opportunity to start maximizing how grab and to when to do what with the Goblins and the Troll. So it's one of those teams that can kind of grow with you.
Agreed. On that note, we'll leave it there. Thanks again for listening. Chuck us a follow on Facebook, Spotify, Podbean, Twitch, Twidbean. If you like what we're doing, have a look at our Patreon. You can help support us for a couple of bucks a month.
There's a Discord.
There's a Discord. We've got the Discord up and running, and we've got some good conversations going in there already. And yeah, all the links for that on our website or in the show notes.
All of the above.
Thanks, all.
Laters.
Gotcha.
The less casual gaming. The less casual gaming. The less casual gaming. The less casual gaming. It's hard to say if it's hard to play when you don't know the rules of the game. Roll the dice with bad advice. The outcome is always the same. So let's casual gaming. So let's casual gaming. So let's casual gaming.